Hey, hi everybody. Real Deal is back. And if you look at the title to this video, there in the bottom corner there in the red, new info on Rochette pension hearing. Now, if you haven't been following along, I guess I'll explain it to those of you that have not been following along. I took notes today. Let's see. Yeah, I got it all by heart, I think. There isn't that much to tell. Well, there is, but it's the same story. So behind me, I've got a new behind me picture here. And this is behind me, if you can get out of the way, if you get look at the fine print above the building there, Air District Court. That's Air District Court, first district, whatever it is, of Massachusetts. And that's where I was today. As I had told everybody, I was going to be going to the Tad Rochette hearing, which was held. Tad was there. I didn't do an interview. I did not do an on-camera interview, which is fine. I think that today's hearing was, I think it's very informative. Now, just for the background, Tad Rochette is a former Townsend police officer. He retired I forgot what year, 2019? Gosh, I knew that earlier today. No, I forgot. But he's been retired for several years. And he was arrested a couple years ago and charged with a whole bunch of things. And in the meantime, he went to court on those charges and he was found not guilty of all the charges except one. And he was found guilty on impersonating a police officer. And first glance, that sounds pretty ridiculous. That he's a retired police officer. He was charged with impersonating a police officer. How in the name of God does that happen? Well, I think he might be asking the same question. But there's a whole his trial is his trial on the criminal charges. And for today's issue, which is his pension, it just, to be honest, it just doesn't matter what happened on the event that he was arrested at, or what happened really at his criminal trial. But right now, he's a unproud owner of a misdemeanor. Take note, a misdemeanor conviction for impersonating a police officer, in which he served, I think, probably a year of probation. That was his whole sentence. That's it. That's the whole sentence. And it sounds reasonable. It's a misdemeanor. He's a former cop, but it's an odd charge. But it's there. He's got a conviction for impersonating a police officer. Okay, so we fast forward a little bit, and there's this law in Massachusetts regarding public servants, all public employees. If you work for the state or municipal government, county, all that stuff. If you are convicted of a crime related to your past employment, you lose your pension. That's a basic law. I'm not going to pull up that law right now. I meant to pull up the other one. Darn it. I'll take care of that in a few minutes. Okay, so there is so that law's on the books, and once the retirement board was notified, which I believe they were notified by Air District Court, they notified the retirement board. I think it was them, and I have it in the whole pile of paperwork I have, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? But the retirement board was notified that he was convicted of this crime. So the retirement board moved to their board. It's a board, and they had their own determination that he's not entitled to his pension, and they terminated. Well, they didn't terminate it. They gave him a notice of termination. And then, of course, he, shocked, he was immediately lawyered up and pursued an appeal of this, because this is quite an expensive undertaking to lose your pension. And background on him, he was a police officer for 34 years. So, and municipal employees don't get Social Security, by the way. So this is his entire life now. This is every penny that he has coming to him for the rest of his life is his pension as a police officer. So if he loses that, guess what? He has nothing. And so this is a significant piece of information to know as we discuss what's at stake here, other than that. So the retirement board wants, they still want him to terminate his pension. And that is because of the law. And they don't have like the authority to make waivers or to say, oh, it's not that bad. We'll just, yeah, it's okay. Just carry on. So, looking at this from kind of a couple feet back and looking at the whole situation, the retirement board they really don't have a choice. They have to pursue this. And they can't just say, oh, well, we'll just let it go. No, it's not up to them. They have one law to follow, and that's the law that says you can't keep your pension, bud. So, like anybody would do, anyone in this situation would do this, is he appealed. So let me get a little bit back to what's at stake for Tad. Well, the amount of money that his lawyer presented today was he'll lose over $1 million in presumably lifetime, however long we all live. I think he's about my age, give or take. We're about the same age, I think. And so over $1 million of expected income. Now, he's not, he was an officer. He wasn't a sergeant, lieutenant, chief, nothing. He, basic officer, did his time. I'm sure he did his fair share of overtime. I don't know how they determine the pension, but it's about 3,800. Around 3,800 a month, I think, is his pension, his total pension, which that's scary. That's not a lot of money for anybody, I don't think. I know there's people out there that are making that or less, and they're working, but this has got to last. This is it, people. And on top of that, what was presented in his case file, as well as what his lawyer presented in the court, was he's married, he has kids. We didn't get a number on his kids. I guess his college fund in there. So we now have his wife and his kids are going to suffer. Then we're going to add in another layer, and we're going to talk about his ex-wife, who is entitled to half of Tad's pension based on his previous divorce. When you're a public servant, or a lot of times you have a job, and your ex is sometimes, depending on the circumstances, doesn't always work that way. But in his case, it did, where his ex-wife was awarded half his pension upon his retirement. So right now, he's only getting $1,700 a month as it stands. And the funny thing here is, in fact, this is not the least bit funny, but even if he loses his retirement, from what I understand, I could be off on this, but from what I could gather today, that even if he loses his retirement, he still has to pay his ex-wife half his pension, which would be, he's still got to cough up $1,700. Well, that's all he gets. And the only way, he does own a house. I don't know the equity, but that would be gone. I mean, everything. I mean, this man will be wiped out. And that's what his lawyer explained. And it wasn't splitting hairs and just whining. This was legitimately concerning. I think you can't always read the judges, but I think the judge, got it. I think the judge heard that this losing the pension would be pretty, not earth-shattering is an understatement. I think I think the word destitute came up today, and it wasn't overused. Nothing that was said today in court was weird or outrageous. It wasn't a really lengthy hearing. It wasn't like a trial. It was just a hearing. The lawyers chatted and the judge asked questions, and um, interesting. Both lawyers spit out their share of case law, and the retirement board, the mass retirement board, really was putting their whole case on the law that says he was convicted of a crime related to his previous employment. And even then, it's kind of the only wishy-washy part would be like, are you sure? And I know that sounds weird. He was a cop, of course, but eh, the judge has to split hairs on the judge has to make a decision on one, if that even matters. Does that really apply here? I'm not going to talk and babble on about why I'm not too sure, but it depends. But he's convicted. So one thing that the judge did make clear was that she really didn't. She had no. She didn't want to retry his conviction. That's not what they were there for. And I know his lawyer briefly, tried to push the envelope on the merits and lack of merits on his criminal trial and the conviction, and was it the conviction just? But you really can't go there. That's done. And for whatever reason, he didn't appeal. And I'm not gonna. I don't. Who knows? But this case is strictly on you have a conviction, and should we take your pension? So there's another case law. There's a big case law on this issue, which I learned about today. It was probably in his packet, although it might not have been. Now that I think about it, but there's a big piece of case law that was determined several 40, 50, maybe longer ago. In Massachusetts, multiple state employees have been in this position. Even more serious crimes. Some lost a pension, but others directly, while employed, broke laws, stole money, violated their coworkers' privacy. Some of them did lose their pension, but surprisingly, some of them did not. And I'm going to tell you why. There's something called the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution. Let me pull that up. I messed this up. Let's see. Share screen. I'm going to try to share the screen again. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm going to go to a different. I'm going to start, since I brought up the Eighth Amendment to the Constitution first. I'm going to bring this up first. Let me make sure I'm in the right spot. Okay, there we are. Now I have to go back to the. Where is it? Okay, the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution. This is it. This is not a typo. This is not, I don't think it's abbreviated, but anyway, excessive bail shall not be required. This is not a bail question. This is a fine question. It says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. I'd say us people that are just lay people, not lawyers and all that, don't spend a lot of time thinking about the Eighth Amendment. Sometimes bail issues are debated in the public when we hear of judges letting people go for crimes that we can't understand why they let people go on such low bails and things like that. And that all boils down to the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution, as well as case law that pops up in Massachusetts, which is why sometimes I don't want to go too far down on a sidebar on the bail issue, but this is the case law and the Eighth Amendment is part of the reason why we end up with those head scratchers regarding how come people get out on bail for such a low amount. And we can do another class on that someday. Oh, Well, long day. I needed my coffee. Okay. So the key here and the underline here, the red letters here, nor excessive fines imposed. This is a very important issue in Tad's case, in that you don't, when you are either convicted or something else happens in your life where you're somebody's going to punish you for something, they can't fine you an excessive amount. And that makes sense, doesn't it? We want the fine to go somehow along with the crime or whatever mistake you made. You get a speeding ticket, you don't want to go to court and have a judge say it's $50,000. You were 10 miles over the speed limit, 50 grand. How's that? Is that fair? Of course it's not fair. You want to get out of your ticket. 50 grand, are you kidding me? Of course, insurance, it could feel like you're getting fined that much. But anyway, we're going to stick on this case, Tad and his retirement. So we just determined that Tad's going to lose over $1 million for, take note, a misdemeanor conviction for I forgot a minute, impersonating a police officer. Now, you can say, well, he shouldn't have, that's abusing his position. Well, he didn't have a position, he's retired. And I'm not going to, there's a lot of other stuff I heard about this case and what happened. And it just doesn't matter. And I think the judge tried to say that. I don't want to hear it. I mean, she heard it, but she really didn't want it. She didn't care. Well, she cares. I think it's Judge Maida over at AIR. She's pretty decent, I think. So far, I feel that way about her. But that when you think about charging somebody $1 million on top of the fact that he did a year of probation, that was his whole sentence. That was the sentence the criminal court imposed on him, was probation. And he did his time on probation. And it was a misdemeanor. It's not a felony, it's a misdemeanor. And he not that it, I don't, what's the difference half the time? But that was his whole. So now we're going to take away his pension, which you could say, good for him. Well, I know some people are. But should you get $1 million fine, find yourself homeless and penniless, really screwed over a misdemeanor, and now you're elderly. I mean, I don't like to think of myself as elderly, but we're over 60. They call us elderly now. Oh, okay. So let's go to the important case law that has been decided in a number of other cases for people who lose their pensions, or the state retirement board tries to take their pension. I'm going to try to go, close your eyes. I'm going to go kind of quick. Okay, there's a whole PowerPoint thing here for court people. Okay, Betancourt. The case is Betancourt. It's the Public Employee Retirement Administration, Administrative Commission. They've changed the name of it, I guess. Versus Betancourt, 474 Mass 60, April 6, 2016. Thought it was determined before that, but it was 2016. There's a lot of other cases that came before this one, but this one came out pretty interesting. In a nutshell, they say, a pension forfeiture, as set out in Mass General Law, Chapter 32, Section 15.4, is a fine. It's a fine. It's considered a fine for purposes of the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And said forfeiture may be halted. These forfeiture may be halted if it is found to be excessive. Interesting. A pension forfeiture, giving up your pension, is considered a fine under the definition of the 8th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Now, this case was determined by our Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. Betancourt's case was determined that if you're going to take somebody's pension away, the fine, it's considered a fine, and it has to meet the crime. It has to somehow line up. And there was no financial burden. I mean, there was on anybody else. And in today's hearing, the retirement board tried to claim that, what did I write down? Okay. The judge asked, was there a breach of the trust or harm to the public on this case? And the only argument the state made, or the retirement board made, is, because he was a cop. And, when a cop breaks the law, that's a breach of the trust. Well, okay. But was it seismic enough, as this slide suggests, to fine him over $1 million that he can't go get another job here? This is not, 34 years of his life, and we're going to fine him $1.5 million or more than $1 million. And his family. There's kind of two families here. He's got his ex-wife and his current wife that are going to suffer more than him. I mean, Tad will suffer, but you got two families that are also going to pay this fine because he can't possibly support those people. And is there harm to the public and at large, not just harm to the public, but harm to the public at large? Can you say, you can argue all you want on other matters related to this case, but it's got to stick to take his pension. It's got to stick to the actual conviction. Without my understanding of what happened today and the way this is being looked at legally, is you got to look at the crime that he was convicted of, not the transcript, not anything else. We got to look just at the crime he was convicted of and say, is it worth fining him over $1 million? When he was convicted, the criminal court didn't seem to find it necessary to fine him even $25. I don't know if he had court costs. I don't know. I really don't recall that being in there. I don't think I might have that in my pile of papers I have from his file, but so I might be wrong on the $25 fine. But he was not, I mean, really, $1 million. Is that fair? And I don't care what you think about Tad Rochette. I know there's people who have been chatting on taking my polls and saying, take his pension. But this is the case law. Betancourt is the big case that set the standard to put pension forfeiture under the applicability of the Eighth Amendment and that little chapter that fines can't be excessive. I'm going to swing back. Well, close your eyes. I'm going to move this slide back down here to say excessive fines cannot be imposed under the Eighth Amendment. So, with that knowledge, what do we think? And the judge, I didn't tell you yet. The judge hasn't made her decision. What time is it? Oh, it's 4:40. She probably has, but I don't know. It's not going to be typed in. I mean, everybody left. The judge, it was busy in court today. We even had 2 courtrooms running. We were in the upstairs courtroom for this. And it was full. So she said that she didn't set another court date. She said that she's under advisement and that she would be making her decision. And I'm anticipating, I'm going to be watching the court page every day until the decision's made. And then I will come back up do another video and let you know what that decision is. So, so we got to stay tuned. You got to stay attuned to Real Deal if you want to follow this case. But that's the issue, and it to me, I think Tad has a really good chance of winning this case because you just on the surface. I was reading initially, is it excessive? It's like, well, I don't know. Is it? What do you consider excessive? And but under the when not realizing that we were heading straight into an Eighth Amendment case, especially where there is case law that says it could be an excessive fine. You have to make a comparison to what a reasonable person, that's normally the situation I think of, would this be, is over $1 million excessive for a fine for this when he wasn't fined in the criminal court at all? His, other than maybe he might have had court costs, I don't know. But but he got probation, and it went on with his life until the retirement board came knocking, which is a completely separate matter, and it's a civil matter, and that's why we were addressing that today. He's been fighting this for like almost a year now, and um, he had to stay in court today. I think I the judge didn't say anything, but her questions to the attorneys on the validity of not the conviction or anything. She didn't want to really go there because she said, "I'm not retrying this case." But the Eighth Amendment issue in the Betancourt case is what's at stake here, and I think he's going to win. I really think that Tad is going to keep his pension, and given the parameters of the Eighth Amendment and what just looking at the slides, I could go read the damn case, but I think it's like 20 pages or more. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary. The slideshow I was showing you was actually produced by, let's see, let me pull this up. Oops. Of course, I'm in the wrong place. Hold on. You see it. I see it, but I can't touch it. Let me go to where I can touch it. Okay. Let me go to the beginning of this slideshow. This slideshow was done in, oh, this was, the retirement board did this slideshow. Just got to, which you should start scratching your heads now. In June of 2016, which was right after this case, I guess, is when this slideshow was made. And the Eighth Amendment, we talk about the Eighth Amendment a little bit. 1791 we've been living with, and it's really, cruel and unusual punishment. Presentation in 4 parts, beyond what happens. Okay, beyond Betancourt, the Eighth Amendment, and pension forfeitures. This is the PURAC, is the Public Employees Retirement something commission, admin commission, I don't know. But this was a presentation that was made at a conference for them. I got this off mass.gov, looking up Betancourt, and just before I end this presentation, let's see. I did look at all these, but I didn't want to. Oh, one thing I like to bring up once in a while is we also have a constitution in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we have the Bill of Rights that we know of in the U.S. Constitution, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. And those are the Bill of Rights. And in Massachusetts, we have the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. They're not identical. They're pretty close, though. They cover kind of the same issues. And this is the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. No magistrate or court of law shall demand excessive bail or sureties, impose excessive fines, or inflict cruel or unusual punishments. Everything's got to be reasonable. I added that, but that's my interpretation. And I think that's usually the court's interpretation. It's got to be reasonable. Oh, that's why we have judges who aren't burnt out. And Judge Maida hasn't been there. Okay, let's see. Not even given the, whatever. Stagnant, first used. First used by SCOTUS to halt a forfeiture. That's the Supreme Court in 1998. That was the constitutional vehicle used to try to stop pension forfeitures. These are cases that came up. They made a ruling. Here's one. SCOTUS holds for the first time that a particular forfeiture constituted an excessive fine within the meaning of the Eighth Amendment and halts a particular forfeiture. The case began with a family of 4 prancing around Los Angeles airport with $357,000 in cash in 1994. The government must have extracted payments. Such extraction or fine must be punitive or fine with grossly it was disproportionate. I don't know. Anyway, don't ask me what that means. But the Patriot Act, here we go. This is cash smuggling. No one can run around an airport boarding an international flight with hundreds of thousands of dollars in their luggage anymore and not lose it all. What? I don't know. Okay. These were cases where they took too much money. And then we changed it with Betancourt. All right. Boy. Okay. Forfeiture of pension upon misconduct. In no event shall any member, after final conviction of a criminal offense, be entitled to receive a retirement allowance. That's basically what the state or the retirement board is arguing. Let's see. Be entitled to receive. They get their contribution back. Well, that lightens the load a little bit. That's what this is saying, that they get at least their contribution back because it is their money. When you contribute to your retirement, that's your money. Anything that comes with it, the investments and all that other stuff. Yeah. Okay. That's another case. That's Gaffney, I think. Social Security numbers. With whoever without it knowingly, that's a different case. These are cases, I don't want to go into these cases because they just go back and forth. Because this is a presentation by Pirac. Okay, so this is how Betancourt was determined. That's right, Betancourt happened. The crime was committed in 2004. 2006, Betancourt was indicted. In 2008, Betancourt was convicted. 2008, there was a hearing before the retirement board. Betancourt lost, and then Betancourt argued it wasn't related to his office. The retirement board agreed. Pirac disagreed. The court agreed with the employee. The Superior Court agreed, and then the Massachusetts Appeal Court disagreed. I don't know. Back and forth. Then, of course, the SJC agreed. This poor Betancourt had to go. Gee, I know what that's like. Go through all these courts and find yourself. You win when you get to the SJC. The SJC is the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, our highest court. And the defense was confirmed by the SJC that pension forfeiture is an excessive fine. I guess it's an excessive fine all the time. But they still argue because the law is still in the books. So it can't be excessive. It goes on and on. Yeah, SJC, this is punishment. Criminal proceeding is requires a conviction. It can't be, first of all, it can't be imposed on somebody not convicted of a criminal offense. And the forfeiture, but it's punishment. So is it excessive? And here we go, the SJC decision. This was grossly disproportional to the gravity of the offense, so it's excessive. So the nature and circumstances of the offense, unrelated to other illegal activities. Now, don't forget, Tad was not convicted of anything else. So the other, unrelated to other illegal activities, you have to, there's no other conviction here except a cop impersonating a cop. Maximum potential penalties in these particular cases of Betancourt was no more than $1,000 fine and 30 days in jail. But instead, when you give up your pension, in Tad's case, it's over $1 million. Wait a minute. The crime, the maximum sentence for this guy for impersonating a cop was certainly not over $1 million. So we're kind of in a position where the SJC has determined that a pension forfeitures are a fine, an extraction, and that it constitutes punishment. Therefore, in future cases, in the Eighth Amendment analysis portion of the program, only the grossly proportional analysis needs to be undertaken. So I think that means you can't. Nah. Is it grossly disproportional to the gravity of the offense? And the aggregate maximum sentence that could have been imposed here, and the harm resulting from the offenses. I think in this particular conviction, I think everybody's moved on with their life. I do. Regarding impersonating a cop. Remember that. It's just impersonating a cop. Everybody, I can't imagine that just for that, everybody hasn't moved on with their life. But you got to consider the nature and the circumstances, which it's hard to be extreme about this. Was it related to any other illegal activities? No, because there was only one conviction. So can't pull up the other ones. The aggregate maximum sentence that could have been imposed is not over $1 million. Sorry, I just can't see it. Who decides? The retirement boards cannot pass on constitutional issues. So the court of law, this had no choice but to go to court. I mean, Tad could have said, okay, I'll give you my pension, no problem. But no sane person would do that. So what's the retirement's role? I mean, the retirement board did what they're supposed to. Yes, even though everything's working the way it's supposed to. The Eighth Amendment has been violated, purportedly belongs to the member. So Tad has the responsibility to say that this is a constitutional issue and I'm getting screwed. And I think didn't take very long, but his lawyer was able to say Tad's getting screwed. And I think that I have to agree. Tad's getting screwed if they take his pension. In any forfeiture case, it would be helpful for the judge to make a finding of the total value of the forfeiture involved, which includes what is the term? Collateral damage, which is beyond the fine is being paid not just by Tad. In the event that he were to lose his pension, the punishment will be paid by two families, his first wife and his second wife, and whatever children are involved, as well as Tad. That exceeds the maximum sentence of the crime that he was convicted of. So this kind of gets weird. Some people do lose their pensions, and some people don't. So, but we're not going to go. I'm not going to go into case studies because we'll just be here all night, and most of them won't apply necessarily. I think that I've said enough regarding this. What I want. That's it. Let me bring myself back up here. I think I've gone far enough, and maybe over the top, to talk about Tad's specific case. Anybody that's been following this can see that what his charges were, or his conviction, his only conviction, and we need to stand by that issue, is his only conviction was impersonating a cop. And he did not take a plea. That wasn't a plea. He was actually found guilty. I looked into that. The judge, he took a bench trial, I guess. He took a bench trial. The judge did find him guilty of impersonating a police officer and dismissed, or found him not guilty of everything else. So this is the end of it. And the issue is what the lawyers presented, and the judge has to either rule that, yeah, $1 million is excessive for the crime that he committed, or it's not. If she says, yeah, you can take his pension, then she's not considering, or she's determined that taking everything he's got and the value of over $1 million is not excessive. And I just want to ask everybody to think about that. Is that excessive? And I know that some of the people who have responded to my previous polls, and maybe some comments that have been particularly the original video, is, being angry at Tad for one thing or another over his 34-year career as a cop. I mean, that's fine. Of course, these are personal. You're mad at him, or you don't like him, or for whatever decisions were or were not made by other people in the past. But here we are with this one conviction, and then they're going to fine him $1 million. So looking at being provided common sense review of Betancourt, the case law that he's depending on, as well as the Eighth Amendment to the Constitution and our Massachusetts Constitution, looks pretty clear to me. I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. Just me looking at this going, wow, well, yeah, I think they have a point that might be, and there is law. I at first, I didn't realize that there was really adequate case law that was going to substantiate this claim. And I think he's got it. I do. And we'll have to see what Judge Maida says. And I don't think she's going to take a long time on this. I know in the previous hearing, she was concerned about the amount of time going by, and that she wanted this case to settle at some point. She wanted it to end and have it taken care of. So I think she will probably make a quick decision, and hoping that, we've all seen so many cases out there on TV if we pay any attention, and some judges don't really do much homework, and they make decisions on the fly without really reading over cases. And I really think Judge Maida has looked at this case, and she's kind of got the gist of it. Her question, she didn't ask a lot of questions today, but she did ask enough that made me think that she understands the issues, and she did her homework on this case. Which it's good to see. It's good to see a judge that you think is really looking at stuff and reading it and really cares. And I think she does. And I think she can see through whatever might be underlying this case. But she knows she's going to make a ruling based on the law and the constitutional issue, which is over $1 million an excessive fine based on the Eighth Amendment. And I think I keep repeating myself, but I think that I think he's got this. But of course, he's not going to sleep. I know he's not going to sleep tonight unless the court notified his lawyer that she already decided, which I won't know for another couple of days when it gets posted on the. I think it will get posted. If it doesn't get posted, I'll have to go down to Air District Court and rattle some cages and get the clerk to hand me the decision. But I'm pretty sure it'll be posted online, so I will let everybody know. So in the meantime, this is the end of my video for today. I wanted to let everybody know about my little field trip to Air District Court, and um, that's what happened today. And so I will continue my mission of trying to keep you informed. There's a lot going on in Townsend. There's a select board meeting tomorrow, I think. Yes, is it? Yes, tomorrow. We shall see whether who shows up. I believe Lori Schifrin is back in town, so she should be in select board chambers to have the meeting because it's posted as an in-person meeting. And I don't know if you all heard, but Veronica Kell broke her ankle or leg, or she was in a cast after the FinCom meeting. I don't know what happened. Maybe we'll find out. If anybody knows what happened to Veronica Kell's injury, why she's in a cast, I want to know. Please, somebody let me know. I've heard some rumors. I've kind of scratched my head myself and said, no, really? Was she really that mad after the FinCom meeting and kicked something or tripped and fell under some circumstances that I don't know why people trip and fall? When you're over 60, 65, 70, I think Veronica's older than me. We can't be falling down. Most women at our age have osteoporosis. We fall down, we break things. We go to the doctors, the first thing they ask, have you fallen? You'd know if I did. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to end this video, give you peace. And if you want to rewind it, but please, if you would not subscribe, I'd really appreciate, and I think you would too, if you subscribe to this video, subscribe to my channel, and you'll be able to be notified of future videos as they come out. You'll be the first to know what's going on in town or in the area if I'm doing regional stuff. And I appreciate the likes. That does help with the algorithm. I don't know how it helps, but it helps apparently. And please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this story and my presentation of it. And do share with your friends. This is pretty interesting stuff. Okay, so have a good evening. I'm going to get on with my life and work on my next video. See you soon. Thank you.